Hello, podcast listener. Did you just wake up? Did you use your dream journal? Well, the beginning of this podcast is going to talk about dreams, then we're going to get into high school, and then how the Grinch stole Christmas, even though it's not the holiday season anymore. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of JJ Meets World. And by the way, if you'd like to help support our podcast, visit jjmeetsworld.com where you can donate to our Patreon, pick up some killer swag at our merch shop, or click the link to Apple Podcast and give us a 5-star review.
1, 2, 3, 4. JJ Gordon, sort of like that Indiana Jones in that he's always sniffing out his next adventure. Yes, he is. He's always interviewing guests so he can have them on his show and they can talk about pop culture, arts, and leisure. JJ has his flag unfurled and he likes his french fries curled and he's fun and then he twirled as he goes to meet the world. He will march into the rain even if his ankle sprained. Take a peek inside his brain. This podcast is called JJ Meets World.
JJ, last night I had the actor's nightmare.
Oh, really?
And it's been a long time since I've had that.
Yeah.
And the weird thing is that anytime I've ever had it before was when I was in a show. Mm-hmm. Not in a show. I'm not doing anything in the near future.
For those who do not know what the actor's nightmare is, do you want to give us a brief explanation?
It's going to be a nightmare that falls within the realm of all of the anxieties of things going wrong and you doing the wrong thing when you're supposed to be performing a show of some kind.
Forgetting lines, missing cues,
not being
set
in costume,
pieces being gone. Yep.
Having showed up to the theater without your costume, things like that. This one was pretty intense. I was in some kind of like Yiddish play.
Okay.
It was a straight show. It wasn't like a musical, so it wasn't Fiddler. And
was it a comedy?
No, I don't think so. But here's the thing: I never actually got to the point where I went on stage to do my part.
Oh!
The whole dream takes place. I mean, it's a dream, so I'm giving an estimate here. Roughly half an hour before the play is supposed to start, and then into like the first 15 minutes of the play. Right? Dreams don't actually last that long, but that's what it felt like. The story was covering. Essentially, I'm at the theater, and I've been goofing around the whole time. I haven't been paying any attention. Then I realize, we have a half an hour until we start. And I realize I'm not in costume, and I've actually left important pieces of my costume, the pants, the shoes, the jacket I'm supposed to be wearing, all back at wherever we're all staying. So it's not even in Fargo, right? It's not at home. It's whatever the hotel was we're all staying at or what have you. Not only that, but this is a show that is coming back after a long break, and I haven't done any rehearsals since the break to tighten up and recall exactly what it is I'm doing. So while I'm trying to solve the issue of my costume, I'm trying to run through my lines and realize I can't remember what I do. I don't have any of the cues in front of me. I can't remember this line. It used to be so easy for me because we had performed it before. So it wasn't even like an opening night jitters. It was like we had come back after a long break and you're expected to know all these things. And I knew that my character didn't come on stage until like the first 15 minutes. So I knew I had some more time to get this done. But I couldn't find the right costume. I got stranded on my way back to the theater from like the place we were all staying. And so like there was like a series of events that were just stopping me from getting there. By the time I get back to the theater, I can hear a line happening that I know means I've got like 5 minutes until my scene starts. And I'm like, I don't currently remember even the beginning of this scene. And so it was just like a constant meltdown leading towards performance.
Wow.
But I woke up before I had to go on stage. And one of the benefits of the actor's nightmare, and I'm sure this is actually true for really any nightmare, but for sure the actor's nightmare, is that when you wake up from it, there's a solid 30 seconds where you still are living in the reality of that dream. You're like, I can't believe I was not prepared.
Right. You have to kind of bring yourself into the reality space to like, okay, wait, hold on, that wasn't real. Oh,
and you get that feeling, that sort of, I don't know if it's catharsis or what the right word is, but it's that feeling of, that didn't happen. Oh my God, that was a dream. you're okay. You're safe. You're not about to go out in front of a huge audience and let down all of the other people who are in the show and just completely derail the experience. Not in like, it was like a period show, so I wasn't in like period clothing. I couldn't remember anything. And it was a nightmare, and it was the actor's nightmare. Again, I only ever get that nightmare when I'm in a show. I have no shows coming up, but it does feel connected to a couple of dreams I had when I was in Arkansas that were all about a similar idea. They weren't the actor's nightmare, but basically one was a director's nightmare, movie director's nightmare, where I had a shot at directing this massive scene, and there were people from the industry who were going to be there watching, and I was totally unprepared, and it fell apart, and blah, 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 blah. Another one where I was giving a presentation at work, and that happened too. So I've been having these unprepared anxiety dreams. But the most recent one and the most vivid was last night, and it was the actor's nightmare. What was the last one that you had? Do you remember the details of either the last one you had or maybe the most vivid one you had? Because I remember a lot of my actor's nightmares.
What I've got is not necessarily one where I walk out on stage. I've got one where I have a dream where somebody calls and says, "Hey, where are you?" And I was supposed to do like an improv show, and it's 20 minutes after the show was supposed to start, and I'm unprepared, and I'm not ready for it, or I'm somewhere else and I can't make it happen, which is interesting because in my entire life I've only had to cancel one improv show.
Wow!
And it was because of a blizzard. And
you've been doing improv professionally for over 20 years.
Over 20 years, yeah. I've only had one, because normally what I do is I leave early. If I know there's going to be bad weather, I leave early. We make plans to stay overnight somewhere. Because, one of the things that stinks is sometimes I am performing hundreds of miles away, so a blizzard here may not be affecting anything there. And so in this case, I was driving to Carrington, North Dakota.
In the dream.
This is the one time I canceled, right?
The one time you canceled.
And for whatever reason, that one time has lived rent-free in my brain and keeps projecting itself. And I called them probably 5 hours before the show, and I said, "Hey, listen, there's this blizzard. I don't feel comfortable driving in it. This is the deal." And they said, "Oh, well, we're still having our party, so you got to send somebody. You got to do something." And I said, "I there's nothing I can do." And they were very angry. Then I find out later that they canceled their Christmas party anyway, because of weather.
Because of weather, not because of
weather.
you.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
And maybe they're like, well, the entertainment's not going to come, so we might as well just and they didn't cancel, they rescheduled. And I did go and perform for them eventually.
Okay.
Right?
Relationship salvage.
Yeah, right. And the woman who was in charge of, who was my contact, was the one who was snippy about it, but the president of the bank was like, "Yeah, we weren't going to have that for sure." He's like, "No, a couple of people couldn't get in and flights and blah, blah." So I was like, I'm not too worried about it. But that one moment, being on the phone with her, really stuck in my psyche and has been the thing that has reared its ugly head during my dreams before. And so that just sucks. That feels awful.
Yeah.
And dreams of not being prepared must mean something in our regular lives.
A variation I have of that is whenever I have a dream where I'm back in high school again. Mm-hmm. And it's not that I've reverted to that age. I'm my age now, but it turns out you have to go back and do more semesters as an adult with the same class. And so it'd be me again in the halls of North High School going, I forgot what class I'm supposed to go to right now.
Okay, so I've had the dream where I'm back in high school, right? I woke up and all of a sudden I woke up in my 17-year-old body, right? And I don't remember anything about the day-to-day schedule. And in one dream in particular, I remember going to the front office and asking for a copy of my schedule for the day, and they're like, "JJ, you're so funny. Why are you're pretending like you don't know what's going on?" But when you think about it, if you were transported back 10 years ago, right? Not even to high school, but 10 years ago, and you woke up and you had to remember your entire daily routine and all the stuff that you needed to know, I'm guessing a lot of that wouldn't live inside of us, right?
Right.
So Like, I wouldn't remember what my locker combination is. I wouldn't even remember what locker number I was.
Right. I wouldn't be surprised to find, obviously we can't test this. I wouldn't be surprised to find that for some people it would just take a little trigger that would bring a lot of that back, right?
Yeah.
Or you would learn it again, it would just be re-cemented. But you're right, it wouldn't just automatically come back. When I went to my elementary school recently, I was shocked at the level and the granular detail of the memories that were unlocking for me as I was walking through.
Right, but okay, let me ask you this. You were unlocking large form memories like, oh, this is how you get to the music classroom, right? And things like that. But, like, do you remember what your day-to-day was? Like, do you remember, like, not, hey, I'm here for a big, the DARE symposium. But could you, like, do you think,
it wouldn't have, for sure, I see what you're saying, and I think you're correct. Yeah, you're correct. My class schedule for 5th grade Mr. Weezer's class didn't come roaring back.
Right.
That's true.
Like, you can remember approximately where your desk was? Like,
I'm talking, not just that, but actual moments. Actual, like, really strong moments.
Yeah.
That, oh, that's right. Oh, my God. I remembered this and that, and like a lot of memories that I would consider to be granular. But you're right, not like the structured part of the day. I'm sure I would have to go relearn it.
A lot of people who I went to elementary school with have brought this up to me. So, and when I say a lot, I mean more than 3, where they have this memory of me being a junior fire marshal at the school. And the junior fire marshal's job was, when the fire alarm went off, someone in the classroom would be the one to, like, help everyone make sure that they're there.
You would be that guy.
Right. Okay,
Yeah.
Exactly.
You would be that guy.
You check the bathrooms and stuff like that.
The way you're wording it, though, it makes it sound like you don't have that memory.
I was not a junior fire marshal. 110% I was not. And
I could see you, even more than being a junior marshal, I could see you being the kid that did it anyways.
Oh,
that was like outshone the junior marshals because you wanted to be in it, but you didn't.
There
sign
was
up
actually a boy in the bathroom that they forgot. He's dead now. Thank you very much, Desmond. No, I was not chosen to be a junior fire marshal, and that was a defining moment in my life. I think it started when you were 4th grade. 4th and 5th graders were junior fire marshals. And
we didn't have that at Horace Mann.
I was not chosen, and I was not only jealous, but I was hurt at the same time. That being said, it's probably what made me the person I am today, by being like, I'll show them. And so if my 4th grade teacher is listening to this, I turned out great. People thought that I should have had that job, and you chose wrong.
We didn't have the junior fire marshals, but what we did have, starting in 5th grade, was crossing guards.
You had crossing guards?
We had crossing guards. And growing up at Horace Mann, to me, so I always worshipped the big kids, the older kids. Mm-hmm. So especially when you're kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade, 5th graders and 6th graders seem like adults, right? Like they're like, to you, they seem like that is a cool person right there. And of course, I was looking at Gen X at that moment, right? And the older kids were the ones who got to be the crossing guards to me, which seemed like that's kind of you're almost like a police officer, which is almost like a superhero. Mm-hmm. So you've got some level of authority. You have a vest you would put on that had reflectors, and you had a flag on a wood pole that you were supposed to put down to tell cars stop driving so that people can use this crosswalk. And I was so amped as I got older, like, I cannot wait to sign up for cross guards, right? It was like I wanted to go to the military or something.
They got to come to school earlier than everyone else?
Well, not only did they get to come to school earlier, I got there way earlier than I needed to. We lived a block away from my elementary school. Mm-hmm. And so, and my parents were divorced at this time, and I don't think dad had, oh no, he had moved onto the same block. So both my parents were living on the same block at that moment, just on either side. But I was so hyped about it. I would get up at 5 a.m. and get there by 5:15 when you have to be there by 6. Mm-hmm. So I'd be there for a solid 45 minutes, just ready. You know, and the school's already open because the janitor's already there. And our janitor, who you knew, was Steve Tollefson.
Such an amazing dude.
Mr. Tollefson, Mr. T, I do you know if he's still around?
I don't know.
I haven't talked to Mr. T in ages, but if you're out there listening to the
used
JJMW
to be the head of the Usher Corps at the Fargo Theater.
Absolute awesome human being. When my first memory of him was in kindergarten, he was the janitor, and so they'd introduce him as Mr. Tollefson to all the classes, and he had a black lab whose name, or maybe a chocolate lab whose name I can't remember. And I remember his photos with him in like the yearbook or whatever. And Mr. T was always the coolest, and he'd always, as an adult, if he'd recognize you from the school you came from, he'd go, "Oh, that's a Horseman Hornet right there." He'd point you out. But yeah, I forgot where I was going about Mr. T.
You're crossing guards. So he'd opened up the school, and he's like,
he was the one in charge of the crossing guards, and so I just was reporting for duty to the man that I had looked up to for years because he was Mr. Tollefson. He basically ran the school if you weren't counting the principal and the secretary.
I did something recently that came out of nowhere. I was talking with someone about a memory from high school, and I brought up a girl, and I only could remember her first name, and I instantly was like, I feel bad that I didn't stand up for her more. You know, she was a loner, not probably by choice, but by social grace, right?
Okay.
And kind of moved to the beat of her own drum, very eclectic look-wise. Like right now would be revered by other kids. But at that time, didn't wear airwalks and, stuff like that. And I remember just kind of being indifferent and like not looking and thinking twice about her or anything like that. But vividly remembering 3 instances, because we had English class like all 3 years together. And I remember one time she wore a hat to school, like it was like part of the fashion of what she was wearing, and the teacher made her take it off. And I remember thinking like, well, this is kind of an injustice because she's not wearing a baseball cap. She's wearing a hat like a lady would wear a hat, right?
Right.
But I didn't say anything. Kept my mouth shut. And I just started thinking about like, I wonder whatever happened to that person, right? Well, now with the advent of social media and things like LinkedIn, I found her in a yearbook. I looked at all like 500 plus kids who graduated my year, found her in the yearbook, and I found her on social media, and I sent her a message, and I was like, hey, just so you know, I remember how cool the stuff that you wore in high school was. And I just wanted to let you know that like that has had a lasting impact on my life, right? And she sent a message back like, thank you so much. That was really great to hear. She's like, I hated high school. And I try to impart that to like the high school students I work with, which is don't miss an opportunity to say hello to somebody, to tell them that you like what they're wearing, to tell them, that like, hey, listen, what you did here, like I found that to be really interesting. To ask them what they're listening to. Kids today hide behind headphones. Like that is constant. Kids are walking around with headphones on nonstop. And just asking them what they're listening to right now. There's a girl, like when I was coaching North High's improv troupe, there's a girl who walked in and she had a book that was a series of essays about Twin Peaks. And she like sat it next to her. And I was like, Twin Peaks, huh? And her eyes kind of lit up because clearly no one else in her generation was into Twin Peaks or not to the point of where they're reading a book of essays about it. And she talked about it for like the next 3 months. Like every time she came in, she's like, oh, I just read about this. And like, can you believe this? And I'm like, yeah. And I said, have you watched the reboot, like, stuff from a few years ago? And she's like, no. Oh, okay. Well, you got something coming up. That's great. And I said, Twin Peaks is mentioned in all this other media. And so every time I see her, like she makes a mention of, and she's graduated from high school now, she like makes a mention of Twin Peaks. And so it doesn't cost people anything to do that. But in high school, you don't it's hard to think beyond yourself, right? It's your small world that other people happen to inhabit. And so reaching out and saying that one thing makes a difference. And every now and then, like when I bump into somebody and I don't remember who they are, and they're like, oh, I'm so-and-so, we did this together at one point. I'm like, oh yeah. And I really try and dig into the recesses of my brain and tell them something that connected with me. And not that my memory is the thing that should be gratifying. It should be like, oh God, I'm so lucky that JJ Gordon remembered me. I'm just saying, isn't it interesting when someone says that they did something? My elementary school principal, every time I see Michelle Van Note, tells me the same story, and I love it every single time, about how when I was in first or second grade, she can't recall, and neither can I, for Halloween, I came wearing like a button-up shirt and this little tie that had dinosaur footprints on it, and I carried a briefcase. And when they asked me who I was, I said, I'm the principal's husband. And she's like, oh, we took a little picture and stuff like that. And like that was, part of my part of my childhood. I also remember buying her a bottle of perfume for Christmas one year, and it was called Malibu.
Were you hot for teacher? Were you hot for principal?
Oh, no. I was just ass kisser.
I love that. I love that about you. That you were already like, that's a person of power and authority.
Who I want to have.
And I want to strengthen my connection with him because I know that will get me to go places. Our principal was Mr. Stigman. He was awesome.
Stigman?
Mr. Stigman. I only got called to Mr. Stigman's office once, and that's because Ryan Lewis and I were fighting on the playground.
Do you remember why you and Ryan Lewis were fighting?
No, I don't. He just told us to knock it off, and that was it.
Like, if you went back to your elementary school and, like, Ryan Lewis is like, I'm going to kick your ass, and then you're going to be like, but why, Ryan? Why?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's not enough old scores to settle that if I had a time machine, I would go back and defend myself. I think I absorbed all of those pretty well.
Do you ever, I don't live my life in regrets, but if I had a time machine, right? But you can't use it to go back permanently. You can go back and like erase like one mistake at a time, right? Like one little tiny moment you can change. I could probably tell you 50 tiny moments that I would change, right? And none of them have major recourses in my life. I can remember one specifically that happened 25 years ago. I was in, was it 25? Yeah, 25 years ago. No, 20 years ago. 20 years ago. I was in Oliver.
2005?
No, yeah, it must have been.
Would be, actually it's 2026 now.
It must have been
02?
It must have been 25 years ago. We're going to call it 25 years ago. Okay.
That's a quarter right there.
Good
old George Washington.
And not that it really matters, right? It was the year that Jim Carrey's The Grinch came out.
Yep.
So
one-fourth of
as
a
a cast, we all go to see The Grinch together, like a bunch of us, because the show opens and like Saturday when we're not doing stuff, we have to do that. And after the Grinch was done, which I was completely enamored by, loved The Grinch. Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas, starring Mr. Jim Carrey. And
who recently did like a photo shoot with Wendy Lou Who.
Is that real or was that?
That was real.
Okay, because the girl who played Cindy Lou Who goes on.
Lou.
Yeah, I can't remember her name, but goes on to become the lead singer of the Pretty Reckless and is like a punk band gal.
Oh, no kidding.
And like somebody else was there too. Was it?
This to me, it was
it Martha May Whovier was there? Christine Baranski?
It was a red carpet event that the algorithm brought up to me at some point, so I'd have to go back.
It's great, right? They just celebrated an anniversary. That's why I feel like it was 25th.
And you know what? If it was AI, then I'm a boomer, and I need to get off the internet.
You fell for it. It was good.
Yeah.
But after the movie was done, a female cast member hugged me, like telling me like how much fun that they're having in this show, and hugged me too long, and it made my high school girlfriend really mad. And there's no malicious intent to it or anything like that, but that's one of the things I'd go back and change. I would be like, awesome, and when they came in for a hug, I'd high five them and be excited about that, because I didn't want, like, it caused like a fight when we drove home, and I felt like I didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I wasn't emotionally smart enough to put myself in her, like shoes and be like,
Well,
oh,
and she
this is
wasn't
why.
emotionally mature enough to kind of go like, hey, what's the best way to handle this? You were both teenagers.
Yeah, we were both teenagers. It happens.
There's so many songs about that.
So many songs about teenage love.
That's how common it is.
Speaking of songs, have you ever heard of the band Pamplemousse?
Speaking of songs, yes, I have heard of the band Pamplemousse.
I cannot get enough pamplemousse in my life right
Really?
now. Pamplemousse, which of course is French for grapefruit, but this is spelled, their version of their band is spelled incorrectly. It's like what Americans think the word pamplemousse would be spelled like. And they do a lot of mashups and like covers. It's just great stuff, so much so that I was like, I'd like to go see them live. Like, I'd be willing to fly somewhere. They're only touring in France right now.
What French do you even retain?
Oh, I actually, when pushed into a situation, I'm pretty damn good.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
So I could never organically bring it up like right now, but if you dumped me in like, a Canadian province that is, mostly speaking French, I could get through it pretty easily.
What kind of a school would have an administrator named Principal Pamplemousse?
Principal Pamplemousse works at a school for like the Susan Sarandon School for Oddly Shaped Girls. But not the Susan Sarandon you think of, though. That's going to wrap it up for today's show. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to help us continue to produce new episodes each week, visit jjmeetsworld.com, where you can donate to our Patreon, pick up some swag at the merch shop, or follow our link to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. You can also follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all the sites the cool kids are using these days. JJ Meets World is produced every week by Tucker Lucas. You can find out more about Tucker's work by visiting moonbasemaria.com. If you want to get in touch with your host with the most, check out linebenders.com, where you can find direct contact info for JJ or booking information. Je m'appelle Gigi.